Hi everybody and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI, brought to you by me, McCallion, and my good friend and co-host Matt Goddard. Matt, how are you today?
I'm your good friend again. I'm
Yes.
ecstatic, over the moon that you've
Yeah.
managed to pull me
We've
back
made
in.
up, right? Yeah, exactly. So those watching on YouTube, yes, I'm slightly different today because I'm in Wrexham, which is an amazing place, obviously. But yes, on my travels, as I'm going around doing this 60-day, 60 location tour, I've managed to forget to bring my lovely orange polo shirt that I normally wear. So anyway, for those listening, you just don't care. In fact, for those watching, probably don't need that. Anyway, just so that we know exactly what's going to be happening this week. We're going to start talking about our property news. All right, Matt, we've got so much to talk about, particularly in the property side. One of the things that we wanted to cover was the CoStar situation over in the States. Now, regular viewers will know CoStar owns On the Market, one of the UK property portals here, the third most popular in the UK. And they have been experiencing quite the internal battle over the last couple of days. So it's come to light that one of their investors, activist investor, has basically started to tear into CEO Andy Florence and his strategy of owning residential real estate portals across the world, including On the Market, including Domain in Australia, including Homes.com in the States. This activist investor wants them to retreat to their commercial heartland where they started out and to divest themselves of all of the residential sides, including On the Market and Homes and Domain. They've also managed to secure, has this activist investor, $3 million retreat from advertising for that otherwise CoStar would be investing in residential real estate portals. So it's all looking quite, just out of the blue, sort of suddenly a little bit different as far as CoStar and On the Market and others are concerned. What's your take, Matt?
It's interesting that they basically the activist investor called Andy Florence out for his being frivolous, wasn't it? It's almost like his own little escapade off into buying residential property portals. And obviously we hear the news that he acquires On the Market, then obviously Domain was the big news last year. So to actually have the activist investors sort of almost reining him back in, the first time I've certainly heard of his power at the top being challenged after, what is it, decades of running the show there. So it
Yeah.
came at the same time that obviously On the Market were in the press saying that they were the big up and coming portal, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the big article, almost like the day before, from Jason Tebb, who's the president of On the Market over here, genuinely good guy. And I think that, it feels, and also apparently over in Australia, Domain, one of the key people out there, also did a big old statement, like literally 24 hours before this kind of negative news dropped. So yeah, it's been. I wonder how, with the kind of retreats, the focus on profitability, which is what again this kind of statement that came out of CoStar said a couple of probably about 10 days ago now, basically said that we are, we're going to focus on profitability. We're not going to invest quite as much. We're going to make sure, that people are being charged appropriately and so on and so forth. And yeah, it just feels like this is quite a kind of seismic moment. And I imagine that, if you are sitting in Rightmove Towers, having heard all of this noise from CoStar about how they're going to take you on and do all this sort of stuff, that actually this is quite a moment for Schadenfreude in terms of another challenger has come, has tried to scale the walls and has not been successful because essentially from behind the scenes people aren't impressed with how much they've invested and what the results have been, right?
Exactly that.
Okay, so next on our property news, and again there is so much property news, and a lot of it is portal news. In fact, what we wanted to have a little look on is we've got the REA Group over in Australia. Matt, this is something that you're a little bit closer to than I. They've got a new executive general manager, and he's talking big again, right?
That's it. So the new general manager stepped in after the old CEO. He announced his sort of stepping down quite a while ago, and it was a sort of a planned piece. But it's not just so much that the general manager's come into realestate.com.au, which is the Australian equivalent of Rightmove, but more so the fact that he's immediately sort of gone gun-ho with their drive into AI efficiencies being a priority for them. Now, maybe he's not in favour of what happened to Rightmove last year and their AI strategy, but it seemed a bit of a risky one from on this side of the globe, and especially given,
Sure did.
as you just alluded to in the previous comment, Domain coming out fighting ahead of that sort of CoStar news breaking. So yes, he's stepped into the breach. Gerard Connell as the new general manager sort of cited the new era of AI-enabled growth and innovation, and sort of sat here waiting to see what impact that has on their share price.
Yeah, having a little look right now, and the peak in August last year, kind of like all of these major property portals, like all the major ones, Selager in France, you got Scout 24 over in Germany, Hemnet in Sweden, and others. REA Group was riding high in August in the summer last year, so its share price was 263, and it's now 189. So it's down a good 20-21%, and it dropped a little bit yesterday as well. So again, it's the same kind of challenge that all incumbents have, which is basically they have to try and make AI a feature rather than the product, because if they actually kind of rebuild their kind of portals with AI as the AI first, the kind of centerpiece of what they do, then all of their monetization that they've finessed so hard over the last 20, 25 years just disappears. It just stops being a profit engine. So all of these major portals have had problems with this. REA Group continues to have problems with this. This guy has been hired, and obviously the people hiring him know that he's going to go large on the AI side. Is really interesting, because it suggests that actually they're going to just wear the impact on the business with a view to actually then kind of devising some kind of AI solution to the challenges they face. So yeah, look, it's a watch this space moment. I imagine that other portals around the world, let's also include Rightmove in that, are looking at this with their share prices also tumbling over the last sort of 4 or 5 months, and seeing how that performs. But yeah, look, for all of them, I just think it's AI has to be just a bit of window dressing rather than necessarily something that they're fundamentally driving and kind of believing it. And so that's REA Group, and we wanted to touch on some news from Boomin, actually, who have not necessarily featured a lot on our property AI report over recent months/years. So there's been an update from the liquidator about Michael Bruce acquiring the IP for a part of Boomin, which is called My Bespoke Room, and Michael Bruce acquired this in the June of 2022, while Boomin collapsed about 3 or 4 months later, actually 5 months later in November 2022. So there's been a without prejudice agreement, apparently, worth about £60,000, which is 6 times what the other assets of the business have been measured at. So yeah, all of this is a kind of final sign-off for a business that had some amazing ideas, I think, but always suffered because perhaps of its owners and the history that they had in the industry and the attacks that they launched whilst owning Purple Bricks in the sort of mid-2010s. So next up on our property news, final piece, Matt wanted to just catch up a little bit on I Am Property acquiring Valpal. So that was the big news from today, in fact, the 29th of Jan. Big move. Valpal, obviously very well known for its automated valuation models, and now Valpal Plus, which is the outbound AI calling service. So yeah, look, we know that a lot of the people involved in this, Jamie Cook, Ben Ridgway, Nat Daniels, who's the heads up Valpal. Seems like a really interesting development, doesn't it?
So the boys at I Am Property have continued to go from strength to strength, don't they, with the way that they're building out that business, and sort of right the way through from when it started as I Am Sold. They acquired, obviously, VT UK as that sort of CRM bit, and there's been a number of quite canny acquisitions along the way. And seeing Angels Media letting go of Valpal was probably more a shock that they were moving it on. But I guess if you get a decent offer, nothing's not for sale, right?
That's probably right. Yes, and no matter how many times we've already asked, no one's showing how much the transaction was worth. But yeah, no, I think it's, again, just a really kind of exciting indication of sort of like the health of technology market. That actually there are some big believers in what's happening around and about in the industry. So yeah, no, a really, really, really interesting move, and bringing together two businesses that I think are going to continue to make their presence felt and to continue to grow in the new world. So yeah, congratulations to them, and fair play. And then just a final one in the property news, because again we've got so much is going on. We've got Property Franchise Group revenue up by 25%. We've got underlying profit up at LSL as well. So again, some really good indicators of a healthy market really in the UK.
Yeah, both got strong growth, haven't they? And sort of Gareth over at Property Franchise Group has taken that business again from strength to strength, and Adam Castleton at LSL certainly seeing that growth. I think it's 15%, which is a record for them, wasn't it? Record margin.
Yeah, incredible. And yeah, it was only a few years ago that they changed their business model completely, wasn't it? From being kind of the sort of owner of all these businesses and brands to franchising it out, and it seems to have gone very, very well for them. And they've really kind of made some incredible strides as a business now as part of this whole franchise network. So fair play to them. All right, that's our property news. Now let's dive into AI and tech news. All right, so let's start with a bit of OpenAI. Now, OpenAI is bringing some new tools to its platform. So it's introducing things like shopping carts and merchant tools, so the ability to be able to use AI in advertising and promoting products and services. Matt, what's your take on all this?
It's becoming an operating system, isn't it? I think we've talked about that before, that these large language model are becoming more of an OS. You think of Windows, that slowly everything's being encompassed into it, and we're having things like apps built in, so we don't even need to leave the experience. And now the way that the cart comes in is on the left-hand side of your sort of ChatGPT menu bar. You've got just below search and images, you've got carts, which will allow you to go off and engage directly from there. And obviously all of this is making sure that there's the ability to get a clip of the ticket for OpenAI. And I think there's actually another bit of news, wasn't there, where they're increasing the percentage they're taking on those transactions. It's got their retailers maybe squirming a little bit, but I think it's inevitable that more and more purchases are going to start going through these platforms, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's no secret that OpenAI is trying to find as many ways as possible of making money. They have a lot of investors who have invested many, many billions in the business, and they don't quite have the same sort of almost continuous revenue generation that the Google has through all of its ads, Meta has through Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and so on. So it needs more than the others to actually drive revenue. We spoke last week about ads going into OpenAI, into ChatGPT. So yeah, a really interesting monetization route, and as you say, one that they are trying to kind of squeeze hard. But they're also looking to kind of incentivize, in a separate story, incentivize people to kind of make some AI discoveries that they can share the kind of wealth from. Right, and again, this just kind of speaks to the idea that they are looking all over the place at whatever potential wealth generation they can possibly do. Perhaps they've gone to ChatGPT and asked it, if you were the owner of ChatGPT, what would you do to generate some money? And they've gone, right, here's loads of strategies. They've gone, right, let's go out there. But yeah, no, so this AI discovery wealth idea seems also to be quite innovative, right?
It's a bit of I guess in our industry you'd almost class it as a revenue share model, wouldn't you? Which is we're not going to charge you per API or per token or license subscription, but when you make your outstanding discoveries and go off and conquer the world, then we want some out of that. And certainly it is innovative. Like you say, maybe a ChatGPT has come up with it, but they've also, we didn't touch on it as much last week, but with the ads, they're talking about more outcome-focused ads rather than a sort of paying for reach and such like. So it's sort of, I guess, with the volume of data they're dealing with, they can take some more of these interesting positions, right?
Yeah, and I think the kind of on-success payment methods are going to become even more prevalent in the world of AI, because you can track things so straightforwardly. So I think, the kind of idea of, even going to subscription models or, for business to business particularly, I think there's going to be a lot more of a move towards, right, usage and or outcome focused. So actually you will only pay if you are making money and you share a clip of that, or it is only the amount that you use that you actually end up being charged for as well. And so I do think, some of the more traditional ways of charging, per seat, things like that, are going to start to go by the wayside. And it's going to be interesting to see how all of these innovative businesses, frontier businesses, AI businesses, are going to start to sort of lead that charge. So also in the world of frontier models, Apple has confirmed, as we spoke about last week, that the Gemini is going to be its new Siri backer, and it's actually going to launch later on this year, isn't it, Matt?
That's it. There's going to be an announcement actually next month, apparently, with a bit of a run through. I don't know if that'll be, as we talked about last week, the whole Apple Intelligence being relaunched, and obviously they're a good year behind now. So they'll have to be careful on what they promise, and especially after last time over-promising with the various class action lawsuits. But in alongside it being unveiled as Gemini powered, obviously it came out that they were also seriously reviewed Anthropic and OpenAI as part of that process, and before obviously choosing Google as that solution. But I for one, am certainly looking forward to seeing how it goes, and not having to necessarily dump my iPhone and my AirPods and such like just yet.
Yes, exactly that. And yeah, more on the sort of the Apple Google tie-up. It has come out, I'm sure somebody at Google has leaked this, that Apple considered Anthropic, so Claude and OpenAI's ChatGPT, before deciding to partner with Gemini. So, a kind of a strong, we've done our due diligence and we believe that Gemini is going to become the leading platform over time. And I think that's a really interesting sort of vote of confidence. We've spoken a lot about, ChatGPT's kind of perceived dominance for a long time. And then suddenly, Google has, over the last year, in 2025 particularly, suddenly started to kind of take the lead and take control of this race, right?
That's exactly it.
I'm good to hear Mabel in the background as well there.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to mute myself as I'm doing that.
All right. So next up, some more news coming in from China. So Moonshot AI's Kimi K 2.5 is basically showing everybody how you want to deploy AI agents. So just to kind of reflect, AI agents or agentic AI are AIs that you can get to do jobs for you. So actually you can give them a task, they will go off and they will autonomously go and do this job. They will come back and check with you a few times if you want, if you specify that that's what you want to happen. But yeah, in this particular instance, Kimi K 2.5, which is a very, very, very powerful model from Moonshot AI in China, it is deploying 100 sub-agents simultaneously to code. And it reckons it cuts coding time by 4.5 times. So Matt, this is very much your kind of world. Sounds pretty amazing.
There's a lot of intricacies that go into this, and I'll try not to send you to sleep because I know you've been on the road for a lot of today and sort of struggling to stay awake in that church that you sat in. But I think the interesting part of the Kimi K 2.5 is it had gone a little quiet, hadn't it? And there was mention of them sort of September, October last year, and obviously the big noise started in January, February last year when these Chinese models hit the scene. But this idea of like coordinated swarms, which was sort of a term that's coined off the back of Doctor Strange and the multiverse, where I believe in the plots, millions of Doctor Strangers come together to save the world, and the idea that these AI agents can swarm for you in a similar sort of way. I think it's where maybe the geeks are taking over a bit too much. We had Nano Banana win out last year with the naming convention, but for swarms, all we really need to read is teammates or colleagues, and the fact that a lot of the work here, Kimi K2 has gone in, 2.5 has gone into the scheduling of tasks, so making sure that they can pick up the same tasks, that they're not working on the same ones, and that they're actually working hand in glove. And you can see from those sort of execution times being up 4.5%, 4.45 times of this speed, just really shows how well that's been coordinated. And I don't think this is the first time we'll see this, and definitely not the last. I think you even alluded to earlier, Claude Code's got swarms on the way, if not here already.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, swarms does sound a lot cooler than just colleagues. So I imagine it's going to stick. So that'll stay.
when people have support heroes and customer champions and those kind of names like you get if you're working in a fast food restaurant. You can have these ones. And like joking aside, I've been using Claude Code a lot, like people do. I think over the Christmas period when you're not working flat out, you can experiment a bit more, and it's great having it sat there and thinking through, and gives you a prod when it needs you to review something. But that's one Claude Code. Imagine having like several of those that are interacting and handing tasks off to each other, and it's that sort of stepping back and thinking of things as your teams. And we talked about marketing before, where you've got the copywriter handing off to the editor, handing off to the social media thing. Like the idea of these teams working together and churning through tasks without tripping up over each other.
Yeah, absolutely, and no, I think they're working in parallel as well. So you can kind of like have loads of things going on at the same time, and it's just going to become a really, really important part of how we all operate business. And I think the ones that adopt this or understand this and really get it and try it out. So the big kind of takeout here is start to understand what's happening with agentic AI, with AI agents, and go and play with them. Try them out, do it on very small tasks first of all, but then actually slowly build up and see how they do work in tandem together, because there's a huge amount going on. And you mentioned Claude there, Matt. There's been a lot coming out from Anthropic about Claude, its large language model. I think we mentioned last week about it going into Excel, but maybe that was just another kind of quick brief thing. But it's got co-work, as we spoke about last week, certainly, and it's just building even more things into Claude even this week, right?
The Claude in Excel this week, the big announcement really is that before you could ask Claude to do a lot with Excel, and it was actually more powerful than actual Copilot embedded in Excel. What this week's announcement is you now actually have it in as an add-in within the Excel product. So where the side panel opens up and you can ask it in line to just deal with your spreadsheets, and it's exceptionally powerful. And gone are the days, I used to crunch through a lot of Excel formulas and spreadsheets when I was at Foxtons, and
Same.
one of the days of having to try hack those and go to work out in the formula bar where you're missing a parenthesis, to now just being able to say to Claude, fix this and create this spreadsheet, and off it'll go and work in line in your Excel. So that was the big announcement this week. The other one from Claude, which is sort of running fast on the tail of OpenAI and ChatGPT, is they announced their apps, and I've not had a chance to play with it yet. But this is the idea that within Claude you can add in third-party apps that you can call as part of the prompt, and so they're up there running very much a continuation of what ChatGPT had done. So it's keeping that consistency across all the large language models, isn't it? Or one builds in the functionality and the rest of them replicate it.
Yeah, 100%. And it is really fascinating because Anthropic, again, we've touched on, was always seen as sort of the one that was probably least likely to really make it, because it didn't have, any of the sort of the high profile that OpenAI had. It didn't have any of the, the kind of Elon Musk effect that XAI has got, and didn't have Google's backing or Meta's backing for like established revenue streams. And yet it seems to be absolutely smashing it from a technical point of view. It's been per token profit is much higher than pretty much any other AI out there. So look, Claude is well worth a look, particularly obviously on the technical side, but again, it's launched this co-work, and for 30 quid per month just to have a little look at it is well worth it. All right, so that is the end of... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just because on Claude Co-work, we had it as our tool of the week a couple of weeks back, just as it launched. But actually, what's phenomenal about that is they've taken the step of introducing tasks into Claude Co-work, and it's given an actual user interface, whereas with Claude Code, you have to talk to it in the terminal, which is a bit scary for non-technical people, whereas having that user interface is a key part of being able to engage and work with it. And the phenomenal thing is they actually built Claude Co-work in a week and a half using Claude Code. So it was an idea. Someone said, why don't we knock something up that the layperson can use? And a week and a half later, without anyone else involved, Claude Code had produced this thing that's now out there, be it a little bit buggy and only available on Macs, but still a product was created in a week and a half.
Yeah, amazing. All right, that is our AI and tech news this week. Let's dive into our tool of the week. All right, so tool of the week this week, Google Photos has a new AI feature that lets you meme yourself. Okay, so for those that aren't too familiar with the meme situation, essentially there are certain images or gags, things like that become just part of, particularly on Twitter, it used to be Twitter, now X, become part of like images that have the same kind of story to them and are basically just deployed at appropriate moments to make people laugh. All right, and one of my favourite ones has always been the dog having a cup of coffee whilst his house is on fire, saying this is fine. Okay, now that's always appealed to me. Now, Google uses this particular meme as their kind of launch for this new, it's called Me Meme, which is really difficult to say. So M-E and then space M-E-M-E. So go and have a look. And basically, it's a bit of fun, right? We like a bit of fun on the old Property AI report, mate. You know that. So, yeah, have you had a look at this in any great depth, Matt? Any kind of thoughts?
Until I saw it in the show notes, the Me Meme. I didn't even know the dog and having a coffee while it's on fire.
No, it's so good.
I have to say, my me meme has to be Homer disappearing off back into the hedge. I think that probably covers a lot of situations I'm involved in.
And your desire to just gently walk away from the area.
Maybe a bit.
Like brilliant. So
at times, Mal.
Pardon?
A bit like this podcast at times.
Exactly that, yes. Let's pretend that we had nothing to do with it. Brilliant stuff. All right, well, listen, that is all we've got time for this week. Thank you so much for listening in. We'll be back again next week in normal garb, also in a normal location. So as Matt alluded to, I am currently in a converted church in Wrexham, which is very nice, but just a little bit cold, to be honest, but apart from that, I'm very, very fine. So look, we look forward to speaking with you, catching up again next week. Thank you for listening in. Matt, thanks for being there as ever, and we'll catch up again with you in 7 days' time.
Praying for you, Mal. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, mate.